In this problem, we're looking at insurance, and we're looking at the amount of money that an insurance company receives per policy on a life insurance is a random variable with a mean of $303.37 and a standard deviation of $9,707.57. Okay, so the mean is what the insurance company can expect to receive on average per policy, and then the standard deviation tells us how much the amount of money they receive varies from one policy to the next. So we're going to define a new random variable as the combination of two insurance policies from the same distribution, same mean, same standard deviation. It's helpful for us to define the variable W as 1/2 of x1 plus x2 in parentheses, and it makes it easier for us to recognize the properties we need to use to find the mean and the standard deviation of W. So finding the mean of W should be fairly straightforward, and we should be able to discover, however we do this, that the mean of x1 plus x2 over 2 should just end up being the mean of a single policy. There's no change in that. When we get to the variance, or standard deviation I should say, it's a little more delicate. Before we find the standard deviation, we should find the variance. And the reason we're doing this is because we are combining two random variables. We're adding random variables. And when we do that, we have to add the variances first before we can find the standard deviation. We're actually going to use two properties of random variables here. I'm going to start off with the property that says when I combine two random variables, I add their variances. So I'm going to rewrite it as the variance of the variable 1/2 x1 plus x2 is the variance of 1/2 of x1 plus the variance of 1/2 of x2. Okay. The other property I'm going to use is the property that tells me what happens to the variance when I multiply each value in the distribution by a constant. We saw in class when we looked at distributions that when we multiply each value in the distribution by a constant, we multiply the variance by the square of that constant, which is why I'm writing this as 1/4 instead of 1/2. I'm writing 1/4 of the variance of x1 plus 1/4 of the variance of x2. At this point, I've done everything I can with properties of random variables. Now I'm going to plug in the values. Okay, when I do this, I get a pretty large number, 47,118,457.65. To find my standard deviation, I need to take the square root of that number. I'm taking the square root of my variance. And that should work out to be 6,864.29. So this is my standard deviation of the new variable that's formed by taking x1, the amount of money received on one insurance policy, plus x2, which is the amount of money received on another insurance policy, and averaging those two. So the variability in two policies, the average of two policies, is smaller than the variability of any single policy. So in other words, we could say that if we take if we define this new variable W as the average of two policies, then the average of two policies is going to vary less from one average of two policies to another average of two policies than a single policy will vary from any other single policy. That's how we interpret this new standard deviation